Half a day, everyone. Nick Delgado with the KUAM News Team. Decision 2024 in full swing. It feels like August 3rd is already just tomorrow for the primary election. And we want to get to the hot ticket item on the ballot, the race for Guam's next delegate. We're going to give you a round to hear from each of the candidates vying for that position. And first up, Ginger Cruz. Half a day, Ginger.
Half a day, Nick. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So let's get right into it.
Okay.
Race for Washington?
Yes.
Tell us what made you come to that decision that we have here today?
Well, last semester I had the great honor of being able to teach at the University of Guam. I've been back to Guam now for a couple of years, working in the private sector and supporting defense contracting and a lot of the work that's going on related to the military buildup. And I really wanted to get more involved in the island. So I was fortunate enough to have the University of Guam bring me on. And I was teaching U.S. foreign policy to a bunch of really engaged and wonderful students. Mm-hmm. And throughout that time, as I was putting together my thoughts to be able to sort of teach this new generation what they needed to be prepared about the future, it got me thinking deeply about what solutions do we need to have in place? What kind of a vision does the island need to have in order to overcome problems that have been here for so long? You know, when I came back to Guam, my husband was joking with me. I was talking about how some things stayed the same after a really long time. And it's like an episode of As the World Turns, you know, one of those old soap operas.
Yes.
Where you can leave for 20 years, and then when you come back, it's some of the same problems that are still causing issues for the people of Guam, that are causing the high cost of living, that are causing the lack of real development with the economy, that are causing problems and hiccups with the relationship with the Department of Defense and the military as they're trying to expand. And how does Guam benefit from that and, you know, not have adverse impacts on the community? So all these things were in my head. So at the end of the semester when I finished, I really thought deep and hard about it. And I'm one of those people that, you know, I don't want to just criticize it from the media or from the newspaper. If I can do something about it, then I should at least try.
Okay.
So spoke to my family, took a long, hard look and said, you know, let me give it my best and let me try this time, because I really do believe that there are solutions out there that have not been tried, that have not been thought of. And the time is now. Guam is in a unique window of time where we have the world's attention, and I just felt compelled to jump into the race.
What was your loved one's response when you finally had that conversation?
They were really excited.
Yeah.
So I have a daughter that lives here now. I now have a grandson who's at Mercy Heights doing the preschool there. And you know, that also gives you a different perspective. You're looking at the future that they're going to be facing. And you know, back in the days in KUAM, you know, you were covering issues, but I didn't have that extended family. And now, as I've gotten older, with, you know, over 35 years of experience, both in Guam, in the federal system, there's just a lot more that I can do. And my family was completely supportive. My husband was really excited about it. All the kids are excited about it. A lot of the people that I've been talking to since I was at Academy were like, you know, we kind of knew someday you would run. And so I guess the time has come.
And you've been approached before about being in political office as well, in the public eye, and that.
I have. Actually, so I worked under the Joe Atta administration with the Republican Party early on. I worked under Peter Leon Guerrero at the Bureau of Planning, and that was an amazing time. I was part of the group that really got the first compact impact grants for Guam. So that was a long, long time ago. And then, of course, I worked with Carl Gutierrez. I was his communications director, and that was an incredible experience as well of public service for the island. So I've been sort of through a lot of these efforts. There was a time in KUAM, actually, when Governor Atta came here one time and had worked with that team to try and get petitions signed to get me to run for senator. And at the time, I really wanted to stay in media, so I did. And Governor Gutierrez, same thing, you know, was talking to me as we were sort of going through the second term, saying, you know, why don't you then move on and become part of the legislature? And at the time, I felt like I needed to expand my knowledge and really understand the other side of what happens in Guam. And so really that's what I did for the last 20 years, work on the federal side of the issue and learn how things work and what makes federal agencies tick. And then now coming back home to a place that, has always been my home.
Yes.
I put pieces together and the puzzle pieces just kind of fall in place. And I think the discussion, hopefully with the people that are going to be voting, I hope to see the next couple of months full of discussions. I hope discussions with everybody who's running for the office about some new ways to approach long-standing issues that the people of Guam are facing.
Okay, well, we'll get to more of that discussion in a moment, as well as I want to unpack a bit of your platform if you have that on hand. When we return in a moment, keep it here. Welcome back to the interview. We're going to continue our talks now with candidate for Guam delegate, Ginger Cruz. Half a day, Ginger.
Half a day.
So tell us, what is your platform?
So the platform is developing still. I certainly have a lot of areas that I want to focus on, but I also am very open to having discussions with all of the different interest groups on Guam. I've started some outreach to veterans organizations. I think that there's a lot of lip service paid to real issues that are being faced by vets. And I'm not about lip service. We need to find creative solutions that will actually bring up the quality of care and the attention that they deserve. Issues for the younger generation. I was just talking to some students up at the University of Guam. We're going to work on a get out the vote. But I think the reason that young people are disengaged and don't really come out to vote is because they don't feel like they're being heard. They don't feel like their issues are pertinent anymore to what the politicians are saying. And so I'm going to have a very active effort to gather more input and talk to folks under 30 to find out, what are the issues. We know some of the basic issues, and I think those are all going to be part of the platform, but I want to get that input. So moving to the things that I think are going to be essential. So the first thing is the cost of living. And I think, every single time somebody starts out, they always say the Jones Act. It's almost like this rote discussion, we've got to fix the Jones Act, right? That's a very deep and difficult discussion. You can't get it repealed because it works for the continental United States, and Guam is an anomaly. But there are certainly ways that Guam can utilize this moment in history where the entire United States national security depends on the critical positioning of Guam in order to deter anything from happening in the Asia Pacific region, and can leverage that into targeted exemptions where we can carve out Guam, where we can make things easier, not just for us, but also for the folks that are trying to improve the nation's security. So I think that is an issue that certainly is at the top. The SSI, I think, is one of those issues that's always been around. And it's not just writing letters or just saying the same things or continuing to cry about how it's so unequal and why doesn't Guam get it. It really is going and sitting down with the federal bureaucracy from a regulatory standpoint, figuring out how can we create something that isn't going to have so much of a budgetary impact that Congress will turn it down, and find creative ways to get SSI for the people on Guam, because it's only fair. Another really key area, and I think this is one I don't want to scare people, but at the same time I don't think people talk about it enough. Guam, they always talk about us being the tip of the spear. And if you read too many articles about what the Department of Defense is saying, every single war game that talks about any sort of conflict with China over Taiwan, one of the first things that's going to happen is Guam will be attacked. Same token with North Korea. I think there need to be a lot more serious discussions about the type of support, the type of planning, the type of understanding that we have on Guam about the threat that we face. Because this island is never, it's irreplaceable. It has a people, it has a culture. Every single life is precious. And the new general taking over for the Indo-Pacific, it was very interesting. He just testified before Congress. And he said the most important priority for him is the 170,000 Americans that are living on Guam, which is absolutely true. But we need to have a serious discussion on Guam about preparedness, about understanding the threats, about actively understanding that deterrence, because this isn't just about protecting the bases. This is our lives. This is everything. It's our existence. And I think the people of Guam need to be very involved in that and understand that more. So those are just a few of the things. But of course, in addition to that, healthcare is a huge issue. We've got to improve the quality of healthcare in Guam, and how can the federal government be involved in that? And then I think finally, we don't need a welfare society. We need to stop having that mindset where we go to Washington and we're always asking for a handout.
Yes.
Oh, we need money, because it's a one-time thing. The federal government's great about giving us handouts, but after the handout's spent, we go right back to ground zero, where we're not in a situation where we can help ourselves. We need to seriously focus, working with the legislature, working with the governor, working with everybody on the business community, and create lasting potential for Guam to diversify its economy beyond tourism and improve its economy so that we're making our own money and we're not always looking for a handout.
Sounds like you built your platform just right here for us. Okay. Well, we want to speak with you more about your history and your journey that brought you to this run. So we'll get to that in a moment here, but we're going to take another quick break. We'll be right back with more interview in just a moment. Welcome back to the interview. Continuing our conversation now for Decision 2024 is the candidate for Guam delegate under the Democratic ticket, Ginger Cruz. Half a day, Ginger.
Half a day.
So talk to us a little bit about your history that brought you to your decision to run. We, of course, know longtime anchor woman, KUAM is always going to be home.
It is.
And then you kind of took a step back.
I did.
And went along a new journey.
I did. So I think the first important thing to say, though, and I don't know a lot of people know this about me, is I went to Harmon Loop Elementary School, just like right down the street from here, right? Lived in League One Terrace. I am a product of Guam. And the one thing that I am eternally grateful for is when I went to Washington, D.C., and I served as a Deputy Assistant Secretary at the U.S. Department for Housing and Urban Development, really getting into domestic issues. I worked directly for Andrew Cuomo, who was the secretary at the time. And then, in my career, I was lucky enough to be the Deputy Inspector General for Iraq Reconstruction, where I got to report to the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of State, and report to 8 committees in Congress.
Proud moment for a local girl there.
That was a lot. And it was a moment where you really felt like you were contributing to the nation's security. I served for 8 years in that position, and I served in Iraq under fire. I was a 2-star general equivalent on the civilian service side. And so as a civilian part of the Department of Defense, still had to wear the body armor and was still, I had I had one staff member who was killed, unfortunately, during those 8 years. But we were in that same environment and really defending the national security of the United States and being involved in something that was truly important. But one of the things I was saying to the students at the University of Guam, I was able to do all these incredible things, but I'm a product of Guam. So when people say, my daughter moved here, and some of her friends from Arizona were saying, are the schools good enough for your son? And I said, I'm a product of both public and private school. I went to elementary school here, I went to St. Anthony's, I went to Academy. I went to the University of Pennsylvania, but then I came back and I worked here in Guam as long as I could. So then when I left, those jobs that I was in, both in the private sector as a consultant working for federal agencies and directly working as a high-level senior executive service federal official, gave me an incredible insight into how the sausage is made. How does the federal government really think about these issues? What are the calculations? And how can you actually move the needle?
Yeah.
Can you change policies? And the entire time that I was with the Iraq Inspector General, there was a whole new discipline for what we called contingency contracting. It was an adjustment because the United States had never really been involved in a long-term reconstruction program. And there was a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse. So when you look at that and you're trying to stop that, but you also want to be able to strengthen peace in the world and be able to use all the levers, diplomacy, the military, economic development, how do you do that on a grand scale? And where did I learn all of that? I learned it in places like KOAM, working under Governor Adda, definitely working with Governor Carl Gutierrez, who I learned so much from. And all of these experiences contributed to a knowledge that I think really helped me succeed on the federal scene. And so now the thing that's exciting is I would love an opportunity to bring that experience back to Guam and to really leverage that and to see what creative solutions can we come up with to really move the needle, not just give lip service to the same old, tired, asking federal government agencies to bail us out, but really thinking solutions that will work for Guam. And I think those experiences that I've had, I feel really prepared. I think this is the time, and I really think I have a lot to contribute.
Okay. Well, thinking optimistically here, and I'll ask this of all the candidates, of course, should you make it past the primary and past the general into that seat as Guam's next delegate, have you ever thought about what would be your first action?
Yeah, so there's one piece I think that is very important, and it may not be politically correct to perhaps say it, but I think it really is critical. So the Guam delegate seat is a non-voting delegate seat. I don't get to cast a ballot, but there's a couple of things that it does give you. It gives you a platform, not just to teach people about Guam. Oh, we're an island west of the international date. That's not important. We need a voice there that's able to actually convince other states to support things that are good for us and good for them. It's not just using that to spread the word about Guam. It's not the Hafiday spirit, hey, come and visit our island. It's got to be used more strategically. That voice in Congress needs to be able to deliver results, because words as a weapon system, it's something I always say. If you can use words as a weapon system, if you can create something by talking to the right people and pushing policy initiatives through that end up in real results on Guam, then you're really using that seat. Second thing is you've got to hire staff that are incredibly experienced. So I've already reached out to folks that I know on the Hill, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. We used to work together when I was working for Andrew Cuomo. She's now the senior senator, or the junior senator under Chuck Schumer for New York, but she's been there a long time and she's got a lot of experience. People like that, talking to them and finding some key professional staff with 20, 30 years experience who absolutely know how to navigate the Hill, recruit them to come and work on the Guam team. And to be our weapons, to be the people that help us to all of a sudden, I mean, we don't have the experience ourselves. We don't have time to, spend 10 years learning it. So we need to have a congressional office that recruits key pieces of expertise to supplement the local expertise and have advisors here in Guam who know those Guam issues, put it together and have an office that punches above its weight. Have an office that's really deeply embedded in the system and can get major initiatives through in key committees, Armed Services Committee, Natural Resources Committee, the committees that matter to the people of Guam.
Okay, look forward to seeing how that all pans out should you move forward in the race here. We're gonna take one more break and wrap up the interview here, Ginger, but keep it here. You're watching The Interview. Welcome back to The Interview. Continuing now our interview with Guam delegate candidate Ginger Cruz. Half day.
Half a day. And I'll tell you, I mean, I still need to turn all the packets and get all the signatures done. So there's a couple of steps to go, but we're well on our way. And thank you again for the opportunity.
Of course. Thank you for the time as well. Is there anything else that you want to make sure that the voters hear about your campaign?
There's a lot that I want people to know about, and there's a lot I want to hear. There's two areas I think that are important for somebody who's running for this office. One is to really listen to people's issues, because at the end of the day, you know, this is a representative office. It's not necessarily about you. It certainly is about your experience and your ability to get things done, but at the same time, you represent the people of Guam. So I'm going to be spending a lot of time in the next couple of months just going to different areas with different groups of people, you know, as many groups and types of people that I can reach. All the different age groups, all the different interest groups, all the different villages, and really listen to the issues, because that will help to inform the priorities for the office. Because at the end of the day, it has to be about what the people of Guam want for the island. It's not just an individual's vision. It's got to be a shared vision among everybody. So building that vision will be really key for me in the next couple of months. And I also want to have as many opportunities to just talk with people, to share thoughts and ideas, because you know, when you bounce those ideas off of each other, new things come out.
Yeah.
That's one thing. I mean, just talking to you in this interview, I've already thought of two more things that maybe I need to talk to these people or those people. So it's a dialogue, and it's an important dialogue, and I really am looking forward to seeing, you know, the input of people. I've been listening now for a couple of years to what people think. And I've learned a lot from that. And so I think listening is going to be a key part of where I'm going to go in the next couple of months.
And there's a lot more listening to be had in the coming weeks and months ahead. August 3rd seems like tomorrow. Do you feel that there are any challenges you might face, and what you'll do to tackle those along the way?
Really, it's about getting people's time and interest and attention. I think there is a general a feeling that politics just doesn't work for people anymore. And your average families and individuals don't spend a lot of time because they probably think it's a waste of time. They think, oh, another politician, here we go again, it's an election, because they don't see their lives changing. They don't see the things that matter to them changing in a real way. And that's one of the hardest things about policy. See, I really look at this less as politics and more as policy. Right? Okay. It's important to go out and touch people and reach them and to let them know I'm there and I care. But I want to professionalize the office of Congress, because I really think, you know, I had this metaphor that I was thinking of this morning. When you get on an airplane, it would be lovely if the pilot was somebody that you knew, that was part of your family, that you were friends with. But the most important thing is that person has to have the experience to fly that plane and keep you safe, right?
Yep.
The office of Congress to me is the same. The office of Congress needs somebody who has the experience to be able to have a vision and fly the people of Guam through some really choppy, dangerous waters and get us to a destination, right? And it's wonderful if the person who's in the cockpit is somebody that you like, or somebody that you know, or somebody that you're related to. That's great. But it also needs to be somebody who understands the professional requirements of that office, because there's so much that can be done. And if we approach it that way, and we approach it as a place where in those 2 years you can actually accomplish something, you know, it's less about, I mean, it's wonderful to give kudos to folks or to say, you know, we need a statue for the people of Guam. That's lovely, right? But the people of Guam are suffering from a high cost of living. They're not being given Social Security. We've lost compact impact funding, and we shouldn't be bashing our head against the wall saying, oh, we lost it, you have to give it back to us. We're not going to get it back. We have to think of creative new ways to make up that shortfall and to get that support, because I'll tell you what, the kids that aren't going to school at Simon Sanchez, they don't have time for politics or for, you know, nice words, or, oh, I wrote a letter to ask someone to help out. That's not going to actually, we all know it, it's not going to turn into a school. And those kids don't have time. They've lost years to COVID, and now they're losing years to a school that was damaged by Mawar. And there's got to be creative ways, contracting ways, working with the federal government and the local government to get them back in an environment where they can learn and they can succeed. So professionalizing the office is something I really want to work on.
Okay. Ginger Cruz, you're candidate for Guam's delegate under the Democratic ticket. If you could look into that camera right there, and your final message to the voters.
I would just say that it's been an incredible journey. My whole life has been based on what I've learned in Guam, and Guam has always been my home and has always been in my heart. I really want to give back to the people of Guam, but I want to do so in a way that is smart and caring and produces results. And I really hope that I'm given the chance. And I want to be put to work for the people of Guam. But the one thing that I will say is I can't be put to work for the people of Guam if the people of Guam don't take the time to be part and go to the polls and actually vote. I think my biggest hurdle right now is reaching out to people and having them take that time and give me that vote of confidence and go to the polls. So the one thing that I would ask everybody is listen, talk to me, and if you believe in what I can do, then I need people to go to the polls on August 3rd and vote for Ginger Cruz.
There you go. Thank you, Ginger, for your time. And we'll wrap up the interview for now and see what the other candidates have to say in the coming weeks.
Perfect. Thanks, Nick.
Good luck.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for watching the interview. I'm Nick Delgado. Stay safe.